Johns Hopkins Medical Center says that phobias affect about 19 million Americans each year. How many of you have a phobia? A fear? See, a lot, exactly, you're amongst those. We are together in this. My first guest, though, has one of the most common phobias, fear of flying. She would quietly panic every time she boarded a plane, and she even found herself like gripping the armrests, hyperventilating in some cases. But Katherine Fan says a combination of science and psychology helped her face this very common fear. She says the fear is still there, but it doesn't control her. In fact, she flew from Austin, Texas to be with us today. Here's how it went.
I'm at the Austin airport. It's just about 6:10 a.m. I board in about 15 minutes, and it's been a stressful morning.
All right, I'm feeling a lot less stressed after some food and a little bit of sugar and bubbly water.
We're about an hour into my flight so far, and we've had a little bit of turbulence. It's been slightly unnerving, like where we go right now. It's going to be bumpy, but I feel really calm right now. Not only do I have a little bit of medication for my anxiety, but I also had a good breakfast. Sometimes I get a little bit claustrophobic on flights. Tight, suffocated, hot. I typically like sitting in aisle seats. A few years ago, today's turbulence would have really stressed me out. I would have spent the whole flight dreading and waiting for whatever was coming next.
Please welcome Katherine to the Tan Fam. So, Katherine, thank you so much. Your flight was about 4 hours? A little under
Right
4?
around 3.5.
3.5 hours. For you, someone who has the phobia of flying, I'm sure it felt like a lifetime.
Well, I've actually been on a lot of planes in my entire life, actually. So my parents are from Taiwan, and even though I was born here, my mom started taking me to Taiwan when I was really young. I actually spent my first birthday.
So you've been on a lot of flights, but it was always...
A lot of flights.
But the flight was, in some ways, obviously, beyond physically uncomfortable. It's something you've described as a phobia.
Mm-hmm. When I was younger, there are a lot of different reasons people develop a fear of flying, and I think when I was younger, it was more just picking up on cues that my mom was giving. She had a lot to juggle. You know, she had small kids on a plane, had to make sure I didn't run off. I did that once. But when I was little, I just picked up on this generalized anxiety, and I think I mirrored it a little bit. But it wasn't until I was in middle school where my family flew through a fairly intense, we encountered an unexpected storm, so the turbulence was pretty really bad. Extreme on that one.
Which is frightening for anyone, but when you have that phobia already kind of easing in, I'm sure it's traumatic. Now, I understand, talking to a therapist, you learned that it's actually, your fear is of falling. So it's not the plane itself, it's falling.
Yes, there are a lot of things that people are afraid of. Like you mentioned, lack of control. A lot of people are afraid of dying or getting injured in a plane crash. But for me, it was very much that sensation of falling. And so turbulence can be really unnerving for me.
So to address this, you went to an amusement park and you rode a roller coaster over and over and over.
Yes, that took me a while to reach that point, but I was on planes constantly because I still had to go see my family. And I spent about 15 years really terrified of every single flight I took. So at some point, I decided, you know, this is a little bit too much. And so I did go to an amusement park and tell myself I was just going to get on it until I wasn't afraid anymore.
And how did that help you with the flight? Is it because the amusement park, the drop? Because, by the way, I will not ride roller coasters. I stopped that in my 20s. But, like, is it the drop? What was it about the sensation of being on the roller coaster that helped you? I heard you say in your video that turbulence you experienced from Austin to New York in the past would have really shaken you up. You were able to process that. How did the amusement park experience help that?
Yeah, since my fear specifically is of the dropping sensation, I got on this one roller coaster that had a lot of ups and downs, and, you know, they really work on giving you as much of the anticipation and that adrenaline rush as possible. Yes. So I think I rode it about 4 or 5 times that day. The first time I was terrified.
4 or 5 times you rode it? Oh, my goodness.
I just got off, got right back in line because someone told me the best thing you can do with your fear is to face it as much as you can.
That is amazing. How do you feel now that, you know, you're able to get on that flight? It's not considered this extreme reaction anymore. How has that helped you?
Yeah, Well, it's really freed me up to enjoy my travels a lot more. I didn't really have an option of not getting on a plane. My parents live halfway around the world. So if I want to see them, I have to fly. But it was always so stressful and it would exhaust me in addition to the jet lag. But now I feel a lot more free to just go out there and live my life. I actually work in travel now. So before the pandemic, I flew 190,000 miles in a year in 2018, and then 148,000 the year after. So that's 90 plus flights a year.
And now you're in the travel agent. That is amazing. Well, that's a huge turnaround. Well, thank you for taking the flight here.
Thank you for
to
having
share it. We appreciate you and safe travels.
Thank you.
And no turbulence, hopefully, fingers crossed, back home.
I appreciate that.